All right, welcome to episode 4 of the Quick Snap podcast, our first virtual episode because it's a short week. And
Yep.
it was a long day yesterday. Obviously, Patriots fell to the Seahawks in overtime, another hard-fought battle. We're here with DA, day after the game. And we're just going to get our thoughts on, recapping that game because it's a quick turnaround. So, obviously, some things that stuck out to me. Running game was strong again. Hunter Henry with a big day. But one thing that I think, obviously, going to have to improve on is getting the receivers involved. I know Jalen Polk had a touchdown, big touchdown for him, obviously first touchdown in the NFL. But, just David, how you feel. I know we talked last week. It was a grinder down in Cincinnati. You were exhausted. It was one of those hot New England days yesterday out in the sun, an overtime game. And now all of a sudden it's a quick turnaround to play Thursday night. But just your thoughts on the game yesterday.
Yeah, this is the thing that makes the NFL different and so good. Because I think when you come from college for the young guys, right, like, you play every Saturday for the most part.
Yep.
You got a week in between. And, thing that makes it different is, now it's like you said, it's Thursday in our mind.
Yep.
And, in reality, you had 2 days to kind of, or let's say a day and a half, Monday, Tuesday, kind of decompress from the game. Tuesday you start looking at the next opponent. Wednesday you put in the full game plan, practice it. Thursday make any corrections you need to make from Wednesday. And then start on third down, situational football, and then Fridays, the red area kind of clean up, wrap it all up day, and then Saturdays, that last final day of preparation. Anything you want to add, anything you just from the week you thought you needed to clean up, you have Saturday. So, this is a big change for a lot of young guys. It happens quick, and there's not much time to dwell on what happened. You got to go in there, correct it, and like you said, we'll game plan today. So, it's a quick turnaround. And then really with the game on Sunday, I forget the statistic. You might know it, but it's like 90% of the games are one-score games, and
Yep.
and
That's the NFL.
yeah, to me, that's what makes the NFL such a great entertainment business, whatever you want to call it, because it is such a small margin of error. We've talked about that. And, Gerard's always talked about, there's going to be a handful of plays that are going to be different makers in the game. And unfortunately, you don't know what those plays are. Obviously, there's crucial moments and critical situations, but there's also just like a 1st and 10 play or certain things like that. So, I think each side of the ball has those moments, and we obviously had them. You have them after wins too. They're just more glaring, obviously, after a loss, and we had a chance to win, and we just didn't get it done. And thing you got to take from losses, you got to learn from them and move on, right? And you got to soak up the good, soak up the bad, try to correct them, and especially on a week like this, put them to bed, correct them, and move forward. There were some things I thought we did really well. And, like you said, you kind of touched on the past game. Obviously, that's something, I think we've got to correct as an offense. I don't know what that issue is. I think up front we can do a better job protecting at times. And then obviously we've always said it's a team effort, right? And it's not just one position group. It takes the O-line, the quarterback, the receivers, whoever it is, backs, all be tied in. So, I haven't really, we haven't met yet or done anything. So we'll try to make those corrections and move forward here.
Yeah, you talk about, in every game, whether you win or lose, there's a few plays that contribute to that. And when you win, it's great because you can correct them in a win. And sometimes when you lose, they become even more glaring. And yesterday I was at the stadium. I was, walking around doing some suite visits and things like that. And everyone was asking me, okay, talk me through this play. And one that stuck out to me was, I'm like, okay, is the Seahawks defense, our offense was up, our defense was out on the field. And they went to empty, and it looked like they were going to go to blitz zero. And Gino recognized it, so he goes to change the play. And then our defense, they start putting their hands up. They're trying to change the coverage, and it happened to be the one where there was a miscommunication on the DK touchdown. And so that right there, we talked about in our first episode on defense. Sometimes you can have those errors, and it's away from the play. Unfortunately for the Patriots yesterday, it happened to be right in the middle of it, and there's a miscommunication, and it's a 60-yard touchdown. And so those things, had he not thrown it to DK, he was thrown somewhere else. It's easy to clean up the next day when it's not a 60-yard touchdown, but unfortunately, the results are the results, and that helps contribute to, in the end, you look at that's probably one of the bigger plays that contributed, that was on the losing side as opposed to the winning side. And like you said, sometimes they're really small ones that you don't notice that contribute to the losing too. And you never know, you're not going to put it on one play because it's 60 minutes of football. But to me, you talk about sometimes being able to correct in a win is a lot easier because you can say, hey, we made this mistake. We were able to overcome it. Unfortunately, sometimes in the league, as you said, Dante, he talked about the other team gets a vote too.
Yeah.
And Gino saw a defense. He checked the play. The defense tried to recheck, get to something else, and it didn't. The communication didn't get spread all the way out, and it's a touchdown. And think for me, there's always those little plays that add up, and unfortunately, that one was a big one.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can sit there and say that about everything. I think if you ever sit there and say as a competitor and a teammate, well, I played good. I think that's kind of, that's shitty. And, I think that's, if you are ever looking at something in a game, a loss too, and saying, well, I played good, no, you didn't play good enough. There was something you could have done to help the team play better. And, that's what we got to do. And I'm really proud of the way guys competed overall. I thought there was a lot of good things. It was good to get Antonio Gibson going a little bit in the run game.
Huge run.
Mondre had a good day. Hunter, we just got to clean it all up and find ways to create plays and create, spreading the ball around, different things. You never want to become one-dimensional. And, like we said, there's going to be games where you got to throw it 40 times. And there's going to be games where you're going to run it 40 times, whatever it may be. So, I think we have a lot to build off of, and
definitely
a good foundation. And I think we have a good identity. I think those sometimes, if you're a team without an identity, whatever it may be, I think that's a scary place to be, maybe. And I think, you look at those games and it's never okay to lose. And that's, we've talked about that. Like, if you're not playing to win, what's the point?
Yep. No moral victories, that's for sure.
No moral victories, but you got to take the good with the bad and try to correct it and move forward. And especially on a week like this, it was a good football team. I thought, we did some things, did some things well, and there'll be things to clean up. But it's frustrating that, like we said, man, that's what makes this game just so brutal. Because you have a shot to win, and those losses are sting sometimes worse than the ones where you just kind of get blown up.
Because it's like it's there till the very end. It's in your grasp, and you put so much into it.
Yeah.
And I remember playing not necessarily here in New England, but at other teams, and sometimes getting beat by 2 touchdowns. Not to say that it was easier, but it was like we were going to lose anyways, and that was never a mentality here in New England. But when you play this close game, those ones hurt a little bit more. And I remember telling Mac as a rookie, because he came from Alabama, he didn't lose a lot.
Yeah.
And there were some games we lost early in his career here, and it was a good year that year. But he'd play really well. And I said, dude, this is not college. In college, if you're the quarterback and you play well, you're going to win. And in the NFL, you may play your best game and lose. And there may be a game where you just play average, don't turn the ball over, and we win. And that's the NFL, I think, and I think you hit on it with your identity, no turnovers, ran the ball really well. We talked about the passing game. Thank God Hunter Henry had a big day, and now get these receivers involved. And as the more you guys run it, the more 8-man boxes you're going to get. Some of these chunk play action plays, they will come. And I remember learning from Kyle Shanahan, you got to keep running, get those guys up in the box, and some of those play action passes will pop. So I think you're establishing that identity. It's a team who knows who they are, play a tough, grinded out game. And all you can ask for in the end is to be close and like you said, have an opportunity to win at the end of the game. If you're there 17 weeks out of the year, it's going to be a grinder of a year, but you'll be happy with the results.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it's very rare you blow teams out, right? And like we said, that's just from the betting aspect of it to the fantasy, like all the stuff that you don't really involved in as a player, but what grows the game and what makes ESPN and NFL Network and all these people talk about the games is that they're so competitive. And I think, like I said, we got a young team, so it'll be a lot of good lessons to learn. And very interested to see the coaching points. Obviously, I watched the film last night and have my thoughts and beliefs, and but I'm excited to get in there today and kind of see the coaching points and hear it from their perspective. I think the coaches have such a great grasp on things, and I've always enjoyed even in game planning, we talked about it, right? Like, see what I thought. I talked to Scott last night about the game, and just I enjoy hearing what they thought, what they think. I just, even after a win, and such a great part of this game is that game plan, that the competitiveness and all that. So I'm excited to get in there today. I hope guys are, to correct it and to move forward. And it'll be a big challenge this week with the Jets. We played in a lot of Thursday night games. It's a very interesting thing, just how quick it is, and I find the teams with with energy and that are just ready to play. Because the game plans aren't crazy extensive on Thursday night games, so it's really those teams that rely on their fundamentals, ready to play, and have the most energy, I think usually have success. Obviously, that really doesn't matter if you go out there and do stupid things, but those that momentum and things like that, just to try to turn the page and keep it going and have that energy on Thursday nights, I think is a huge thing.
Yeah, sometimes I think when you lose, you're always like, man, the next game can't get here fast enough because we want to make the
coming real
corrections.
fast this
And that's
week.
what I'm saying. So this week it's coming quick, and I think before we transition, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Dr. Mark Price,
Yeah.
longtime team doctor of the Patriots, of the Red Sox. He was honored before the game yesterday. We went to his memorial services on Saturday, sat next to each other, and I think. That's one thing, and people don't see a lot of this because it's the people behind the scenes. I know, Damar Hamlin a few years ago, that kind of really brought to the forefront, how much care and, services that as NFL players we're lucky to be provided. And to me, in a 15-year career, there was no one I trusted more than Dr. Price. And going to his funeral and services and hearing people talk about him, I just left even more awe-inspired, because he was a great man. He was one of the smartest men, but you would have never known it because he was the most humble man too. And so I had so many great memories with him and what he meant to not only me but us as players. Going in to see the doctor is never a good thing. You're not sure what it is, what's going to come. You have an injury, and he always kept it light. He kept it funny. I'll tell one story. I had to get my knee drained. I tore my meniscus in 2021, and I go in, and I'm not afraid of needles, but I'm not looking forward to it either. And he's in there, and he's kind of grinning with this big needle, and he's like, "All right, you ready?" And I'm like, "Aren't you going to numb this up at all?" He's like, "Oh, come on, you can handle it." Not to mention he treated special forces over in Afghanistan, didn't need to go do that, went and served. And he goes, "Come on, don't be such a baby." And he shoved that needle in my knee, and he's like, "Well, while it's in here, maybe we put a little medicine in there. It'll help it, fix your knee a little bit too." But when it was time for those serious conversations, he kept it real. And I know he treated you multiple times, and if you want to just touch on that, I think it's important for people to know. They see us out there playing, but sometimes the people behind the scenes, they allow us to do that, and are so integral into that aspect of the game.
Yeah, Dr. Price did my shoulder surgery in 21, and we didn't know how long it was going to take. They didn't know they thought it was just my labrum, and he went in there and it was kind of, he had to do my labrum, my rotator cuff, and do my bicep. It was kind of exploded. So he told Mackenzie it was going to be like an hour surgery, and then it ended up being like 3 or 4 hours, and my leg went numb. It because they had to like strap me in this. I guess I don't know. They strapped me in this chair, and my leg went numb, and I was freaking out when I woke up, and I remember being in like the recovery room, whatever, where you're like coming out of anesthesia, and I was like, I need to go to the bathroom, and I tried to stand up and like almost fell, and then I just lost it. I mean, I'm screaming at everybody. I'm like, get Price in here, get Price in here, and the poor nurse, she was like, he doesn't come in here after surgeries, like, he's got, and I was like, get Price in here, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily even like something was wrong, but like it was more for me like the comfort of talking to Dr. Price, and I wanted to see Dr. Price, and because I had that trust with him in that relationship, and he ended up coming to my house after the surgery and checking on me, and then I dealt with a couple non-football things, the blood clots in 19, and it was such a weird time for me because, it was something that no one really, they don't know a lot about with athletes. And I was seeing other doctors, and they're talking about maybe like cutting some muscles behind my knee to help with blood flow. And I was sitting in there with Price, and I was like, I think I want to do this, because I was just trying to get better. Sure. I just wanted to get better. And I was spinning, and this doctor saying, this can help. And, I was sitting there with Price, like, I think I want to do this. I want to do this if it's going to help me. And I think that, as an athlete, that's, what can I do? And we're sitting in there, and he was like, look, David, you have the choice to do this. But if I was talking to you as a brother or someone, like, I would tell you not to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And he was like, I just wouldn't do this. And I ended up not doing it. He was like, I just don't think the risk is there. Like, it may help, but it may not. Like, let's just see where this goes. And, I think when you're an athlete, to have 100% trust in a doctor in this line of work is special. And I think what Price did so well, he cared about us as people before football players. And 100%. He treated us like we were his own kids, knowing that we wanted to play, we wanted to get back out there, we wanted all these things, but at the same time, we are people first, and husbands and fathers and all these things. And this is such a short glimpse, right? This is such a short time period in our life. And, we're both now old men in the line of football work, but young men in life.
Yep.
And, there were so many things. I cut my finger on my son's first birthday. He had to come put 3 stitches in my finger. Like, it was always something I could call Dr. Price. And, I even called him for things with Mackenzie was going on, or some kids, like, just.
And he always responded.
He always responded. And just
even when I wasn't, I came here, but I went to Indianapolis one year, last year in Las Vegas. It was, he was ultimately, when something happened, and no matter what anybody other doctor was telling me, I was going to check with Dr. Price, because one, like you said, he cared about you, but one, I knew he was the smartest guy, and so I think we just wanted to honor him and what he meant to us and to the entire Patriots organization, and that was a cool moment, for them to honor him yesterday.
And I thought, at the memorial, one of the best stories we heard was, Dr. Gill, the old team doctor, had to take a player in the locker room, and someone got hurt, and Price was left in charge. And when we have so many doctors on game days, and I forget, they're still like, they're learning under the team doctor, and that was what Price was doing. And he runs out there to this player, and the player's like, where the hell is Dr. Price or Dr. Gill? And then, they told the story a few years later. One of the fellows was like meeting with someone, talking to him, and Dr. Price heard the athlete go, where the hell is Dr. Price? And that's what it was, man. Once you have that trust in a doctor, and is so special. And like we said, there's so many accolades, serving our country, all the earning a Bronze Star, all the other things. But he was a better man than he was a doctor and everything else. And it was super sad. But at the same time, I've found at funerals and different things, it's always cool to see, and you get those groups of people together that don't get together, and
Yep.
the impact that people had on people. And he definitely was one of those people, so, appreciate everything he did for our organization and me personally.
Yeah,
So,
100%. Yeah, I felt like, with him being honored at the game, we definitely needed to hit on that.
yeah,
Okay, we talked about it. You kind of hit it right at the get-go. Right now, it's Monday morning. We're recording this. It's Thursday morning for you and the team because as soon as that game, and I remember Bill, every week we'd play a Thursday night game. As soon as he got done breaking down the team that Sunday, he'd be like, all right, it's Wednesday evening right now. And so
yeah,
think of all the stuff you usually do before it's Wednesday evening to get prepared for a game. And so it's time to catch up. So let's just kind of quickly go through a schedule. So you're going to go in today, you're going to cover the Seahawks game quickly because, as we mentioned before, it's already Thursday. So normally you'd be going over third down. And so I don't know how Gerard will run it, but, sometimes we would go, you do the Seahawks game, take a little break, come back. All right, it's Wednesday morning.
Yep.
Do your normal Wednesday morning breakdown, personnel, know the defense, etc. Thankfully, it's a team you guys know really well, and the Jets have played against them a lot. And then you go in, you'd install, then you take a break for lunch, and you come back, and it's like, all right, now it's Wednesday evening. And so I think the goal at this point is to cover basically what you would cover on a Wednesday today, maybe get to a Thursday third down stuff, and then tomorrow is really like a Friday, and so you're installing third down red area because it's a quick. And not only is it Thursday, but you guys have to travel too.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've done it different ways, right? And we'll see what the schedule really is today, how we're going to do it, whether it's, let's kind of just, if we go out and do a walkthrough, whatever it is, or if it's just kind of like, let's install, because I think we've done it different ways. I think we've done it where it's like, all right, let's put in, get to know them, fronts, blitzes, all that, kind of put that in, come in Tuesday morning, do, early downs, take a break for lunch, come back Tuesday after lunch and do a walkthrough Tuesday morning, on your early down stuff, come back in, lunch, little bit of break, come back, do third down, different things like that, walk through that. And then, Wednesday morning, do the red area and stuff. So we'll see what we do. We've done it different ways. Obviously this is, the first time doing it with Gerard. So, we'll see, how we do it, this week. And, it is a big challenge. It's a division game. Very good defense. Rivalry. Yeah. Division game, rivalry.
The
very
Jets.
good defense. Really good players inside.
Yep.
Two really good linebackers. Obviously, Sauce, really good player.
Yep.
And then on the offensive ball, Garrett Wilson, Hall, Rogers.
Rogers got his first win as a Jet last week,
Yeah,
which
so
seems like it took a while with his injury. But
yeah, so it'll be, it's a big challenge. They're a good football team, kind of a different defense than what we've seen
yep.
these first 2 weeks. That San Fran influence of a defense. So it's a very talented team. Obviously we've got a lot of familiarity, and Cleveland's played them, I think, the last 2-3 years. So, familiarity there with the coaching staff. So it'll be a big challenge. I think every week, I think, we talked about kind of the formula, no turnovers,
Yep.
trying to play ahead on down distance, things like that, limiting penalties. Those are the things that you can control to kind of help you win the game. And that's the formula. And, that's no secret. That's every team's formula. That's kind of standard, I guess you could say, around the NFL. No team goes in there and says, all right, let's go turn the ball over. We'll go get a win,
Right.
So, we've done a good job of that. We just got to try to move forward here.
Yeah, I think sometimes Thursday games, it's a whirlwind, right? And it sucks, and then you go out and play the game. And sometimes I think instead of overthinking things you mentioned it, the game plan is kept simple. you don't overdo it because you can't practice it. It's walkthroughs. No one's going to go out there
Yep.
and go full speed this week because meanwhile, you're trying to recover. I remember
Yep.
when I was playing a lot, when I was a starting quarterback, Thursday, I would just start to feel good again.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of one of those weeks. It's like, you're going, you're deep diving and you know that you're going to have to play through some bumps and bruises. I'll never forget playing in Cleveland the Sunday before our Thursday night game. I got drilled by a defensive end on a cold, hard ground in Cleveland, and my whole right butt cheek was black and blue. I couldn't sit down literally the entire week. And Thursday rolls around, and it's like I haven't been able to move very much. You're trying to stay, in recovery mode, and then you just go out and play, and you let it all out, and just say, you know what, you gotta push through it. It's 1 week of the season, and it's a simple game plan. And we went out and played really well. And I think sometimes as players, a long week it gets so much as far as the game plan and all those things. And sometimes these Thursday night games kind of remind me of high school a little bit. It's like,
Yeah.
hey man, football's football. We know what we do well, we know what they do well, and we're going to line up and let it play. And I think it's always beneficial when you play a team that you know really well, because it's not like you got to go and scout a bunch of their defense. You're like, okay, we play these guys 2 times every year. It's been the same defense for a long time, a lot of the same players, and we know what we do well, and we're going to go out there and see how it stacks up against them.
Yeah, I do think the one thing that's frustrating from a player standpoint is sometimes there's things like you said that you would be able to push through. But in 22, I had a quad contusion. We played Minnesota in Minnesota, and I went to the game. And that morning, I tried to do a little workout to see if I could go, and I couldn't go. I couldn't. My leg was black and blue. My quad was not working, and and I missed the game, and that's frustrating because I know if it was a Sunday,
A few extra days, yeah.
I could have played, and so that's a little bit of the frustrating part as players sometimes. But like you said, you just got to push through what you can, and I do think there's something, like you said, nostalgic about it. Like, hey, let's go out there and do what we do. They're going to do what they do, and line it up and play football for 60 minutes and see what happens.
Yep. And so, you talked about the Jets' key playmakers, obviously very talented. But like I said, good thing you guys are familiar with them. When you go line up, you've blocked these guys before. Yep. And I think them having played against AVP when he was in Cleveland, that'll be beneficial because if people don't realize this as far as the coaches are concerned, and one of the reasons why I really don't ever think I'll get into coaching is, yes, you guys were practicing and game planning for the Seahawks all last week, but I can guarantee when those guys got done with the Seahawks, they were already watching some film on the Jets. They were already thinking of some ideas. So that way, once that game
over
ended,
the weekend, probably,
when they have those Saturdays where they're in between, you guys go home, in between meetings, you're home all day. They're already, they're basically treating it like it's Monday of this week, because they're getting ready to be able to present stuff to you today as soon as you guys get done watching that Seahawks film. So it's a grind, and I think everybody realizes, okay, this is the one Thursday night game of the week. Take a deep breath. We're going under, and we're going to get it all done, and then hopefully you come home with a win on a Thursday night game, and then after you win that Thursday night game, you're like, man, I really do like these Thursday night games. So a little bit of a break.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it. I was going to say that, when you win them, you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So it's like a mini bye.
Yep.
And which is nice because our bye is late this year. So, I think that's a new thing too. Our PA kind of got us. We used to work on Friday. Bill would make us work. So you'd only get Saturday, Sunday off. So I think that changed a couple years ago. The PA, shout out to the PA, I guess, get us Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So no matter what, which is nice, gives you a chance to kind of recover, take a deep breath, for 3 days and get ready to go that next coming week. So, but there's nothing sweeter than a Thursday night win. So, like I said, it'll be a big challenge. They're a good football team, a lot of star players. Like we said, and so I'll be interested to see the game plan, and it's interesting, right? Because when, we've talked about the old system, whatever, like you kind of knew there would be new wrinkles, but you kind of knew like how you would attack certain teams. And so I'm excited to get into the game plan this week and see kind of what AVP has, to attack the Jets and things like that.
All right, man. Well, I don't want to keep too much of your time. I know you're basically on Thursday morning right now where I'm just sitting here on Monday morning after the game. So,
Yeah, what are you going to do?
get
Watch a movie after this in your movie
no,
room?
man, with this my new job, I got to start watching more football games because I was at your game yesterday, so I couldn't watch my split screen and have take
Oh
all my
yeah, you were
notes
out there
for
shaking
my
hands,
show.
kissing babies, huh?
I was. So, but you know what is funny? I was telling people first game I've ever gone to as a fan in 20 years. So it was kind of a different experience. I took a little video of you walking out of the tunnel, and
There'll be, I do think that some days, whenever this thing's done, it'll because I think most football players are fans of football, and
yes,
especially guys that love the game, and so I do think like I got home last night, watched the game tape, and it's funny. You get home and you got to go be a dad. I'm sitting there doing bath time with my son and playing with him and getting his dinner ready, and I'm like, man, I just played in the game. I'm exhausted, but coming home to him and doing those things. But then to sit down and watch a little bit of, watch the end of the Cincinnati game
yeah,
while he's jumping on me, beating on me. And I'm like, all
yeah.
right, thanks, buddy. But it's great. It makes it all worth it. But
It's funny. My wife would always say, "Haven't you had enough football for today?" And I'm like, "I
I
just want
know,
to see what's going on. I
no,
want to see what
yeah,
happened because you don't,
you want to
you
watch
know,
what's going on. I mean, that
right?
Cincinnati game was great. And, watched
Yeah,
a little bit, tried to get some sleep. I didn't sleep much last night, but, watched a little bit of the Bears and
yep.
Texans, and
Another close game. You talk about it. I mean, I don't want to keep you any longer, but you guys go and beat Cincinnati week one. The sky's falling over there, and if it wasn't for a controversial call on a fourth down play, they probably end up winning and beating
yeah,
the Chiefs, who are and that just shows you, like you said, the NFL on a weekly basis, as long as a team goes out there and competes, it's going to be a close game, and
yeah,
that's why everybody loves it so much. Because really, yeah, even some of the bad teams, quote unquote, they can beat the number one team
yeah.
on any given day if that team goes out and lays an egg. So I think it is, that's what makes the NFL so intriguing. Is we're all professionals, and on any given day, any team can go out and beat the other team.
Well, and I think too, every game matters,
Yep,
and you get into like these hockey and basketball and
baseball.
baseball, they're playing 80, 160 like, those games are important, but there's so many of them, and it's just such a different mindset philosophy. So, I think, like we said, that's just what makes this game so special. Is every game matters. You get such a limited amount of opportunities. So,
Yep.
it's 17 sprints, and we got another one this week.
All right, buddy. Good luck. We'll talk to you at the end of this week. Go get ready and get your Thursday morning started.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right, another week of some NFL around the league quick snaps. We got producer Danny back here. Just going to cover some quick topics from around the league. Danny, what you got?
Yeah, well, it was good to see you yesterday at the game, bouncing
Yeah.
around. I know you had some alumni stuff with the Pats, so you touched on it in your conversation with DA right there. But first game as a fan in 20 years. So, I mean, just a little bit more. How was it? How was Gillette's vibes?
It was great. Yeah, just did a few things. Popped into a few tailgates, which I've never been to a tailgate before. So these guys know how to do it right. And then just like you said, walking around. And I'm much more of a suite level guy, I think, than a tailgate guy. So I was popping in and saying hello to some people that I knew, and obviously I saw you over there in the Boston Globe suite. But it's hard. I mean, to me, I'm watching the game and I'm looking and I'm like, all right, they're running this coverage, and so just kind of that, I guess I don't really watch it as a fan. I'm still watching it as a player. But got to take my son and one of his friends, and they had a blast, and so it was cool to see the 14 team honored, from their Super Bowl win against the Seahawks. That was pretty cool with a duck boat,
Yep.
bringing them in, which was awesome. And it was a good game. I mean, I think the Patriots, we talked about it with David, like they know who they are and the formula is there. And I know they didn't come out with the win, and there's going to be things that they need to improve on. More specifically, we talked about getting the receivers more involved in the passing game. That's going to be crucial for them. And I think that will come because teams are going to say, all right, they're going to run the ball. We got to take the way of the run, which now singles up some of the receivers on the outside, allows you some of these play action passes we've been talking about. So, always easier to make corrections after a win, but I think they'll sit there and look at these corrections today and say it's a quick turnaround. What do we have to change, and we got to change it quickly. So yeah, definitely a unique experience for me, but it was fun too.
Yeah, it was fun. Tough loss for the guys. As you said, quick turnaround for Thursday night with the Jets. Should be a good game. Jets are tough. Good team, good defense. So we'll see how that one
Yeah, I
plays
think
out.
with the Jets, the one thing, and I was in San Francisco when Coach Saleh was the defensive coordinator there, and I've always admired him. Even took a free agent visit there a few years ago and sat down with him and really contemplated going and playing there. But in my heart, I couldn't play for the Jets after being a Patriot for so long. But I've always, thought he's a really good coach. I know that they went out and struggled against San Francisco week one, but bounced back with a win against Tennessee yesterday. And really, when you look at Saleh's career there as a coach, the one thing he's been missing was a quarterback. And they tried the Zach Wilson thing; it didn't work out. But now you have Aaron Rodgers. Everyone has high hopes. And 6 plays into the season last year, he's gone. And so, this is really going to be the test for Saleh and his head coaching job there, because if you can't get it done with Rodgers and the talent that he has around him, and especially the defense has always been a top 5 defense, so this is kind of their missing piece. And so for the Patriots, it's definitely going to be a challenge on a short week. And they have a tough defense. They have Aaron, obviously, at quarterback, Hall at running back with a big day, and some pretty good receivers in Garrett Wilson. So we'll see. That'll be a big matchup with Gonzalez. I know he did a good job of covering DK yesterday, other than the one blown coverage on the long touchdown pass. So that'll be an interesting matchup. And the one thing that we talked about on Thursday night games, it's kind of like, all right, let's go play football. It's not going to be a ton of trick 'em, plays. It's not going to be a bunch of scheme. It's going to be, what we do best versus what they do best. And I think the one thing that the Patriots have established is it's going to be tough defense. Offensively, they're going to run the football, which always travels well. Now we'll see how the Jets adjust and see, because Saleh used to be the Seattle type 3 deep defense. It's kind of molded into this cover 4 defense. And so, with the amount of run game that the Patriots have been showing, is he going to try to bring someone back in the box to, add one more guy against the run game? So those are all kind of things that I'll be looking at going into this week.
Yeah, a big game. I think the difference between 1-2 and 2-1 as a football team is big.
Yeah.
Big for your confidence. So
well, David hit on it, right? In these other sports, you can lose 2, 3, 4 games, and it's like, okay, we got 150 more. Right. In the NFL, you lose one game, it's okay. You're going to make the corrections. No one's going to go undefeated. You start to lose 2 games in a row, 3 games in a row. Things. That's where you see who you are as a team. Are you going to stay together? Are you going to splinter apart? And I'll never forget that Super Bowl run when we beat the Rams. We had a few losses late in that season, but we pulled together instead of breaking apart, and that was the difference of our team. And you saw that when we went on the road and beat Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and you see the jubilation and the joy when we beat them, because it was on the road and it was cold as shit, and no one believed that we could beat them, and we knew that we could. And I think that was, sometimes you go through those trials and tribulations to become a closer unit.
Yep. So speaking of records, and we'll step outside of New England here around the league. So
Yep.
Some surprising 2-0 teams, some surprising 0-2 teams. But we'll start with the 2-0 teams, and I'm curious to hear who you think is the most legit contender. So the Bucks, they went into Detroit yesterday, and Baker Mayfield seems to be justifying that big contract. They're 2-0. Saints blow at the Cowboys. They're 2-0. The Vikings at home, they beat the Niners, probably everyone would think going into week 2, maybe the best team in football. Sam Darnold looks very capable at quarterback. And then Steelers, they beat the Broncos. They haven't really played anyone yet, but they're another surprising 2-0 team given the quarterback situation there. But Bucks, Saints, Vikings, Steelers, I mean, who in your mind is the most legit there?
All intriguing teams. I think the Bucks, they had a good season last year. Baker really resurrected himself, and Tom went there and laid a good foundation. And I know they had a year after that where it was kind of like, whatever it was, but Baker, has obviously was the number 1 pick, is fully, more than capable, talented. They gave him a contract and he's on a roll. I mean, he juked that one guy out of his shoes. So, I think the one thing that I'm looking at, and you weren't really sure, but the Vikings is pretty intriguing to me, because Sam Darnold, another high pick, we talk about the Jets, had high expectations, goes out to San Francisco last year. I think, I played for Kyle Shanahan. He can teach you so much as a quarterback. And even if, you're not the one out there playing, I learned so much from him as far as, for quarterback fundamentals. He was a stickler on fundamentals and your drops and things like that. And so, I think Sam learned a lot from him and goes to Minnesota with a great opportunity. Very similar system that Kevin O'Connell, one of my former teammates, is running up there. I can't believe I have teammates, other than Gerard or head coaches, but Justin Jefferson, Addison, and then another former Patriot up there, Brian Flores, who's one of these guys who's kind of a defense savant and basically shut down the 49ers offense. And I know they didn't have McCaffrey, but they did pretty good without him the week before. So that's, to me, and that division is getting better as it goes by. I know the Bears lost last night, but another close game that they were in. And so I think the NFC North is quickly becoming one of those divisions. It's going to be a scrappy and tough journey to who's going to win that division. But you put Darnold, who's a talented player with some really good receivers, some good scheme, and a good defense. I think that's one team that I'm going to continue to kind of keep my eye on, because if they keep building, they have a chance to win the NFC North.
I agree. Okay, let's move to some 0-2 teams here. Again, the Ravens. They had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter to the Raiders. They lost. They're 0-2. They had that tough one against the Chiefs in week one. The Bengals, another tough game that came down to the wire. Controversial penalty on 4th and 16 that the Chiefs converted and then ended up kicking the game-winning field goal. So Chiefs moved to 2-0. Bengals 0-2. Jaguars, they lost to the Browns. They're 0-2. They had some high hopes coming into the season. Another team with high hopes was the Rams. Their high-powered offense recently won a Super Bowl. Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, the pieces are still there. They fall to a Cardinals team that just kind of blew them out. The Cardinals offense looked awesome, but the Rams 0-2. So
what's funny,
who are you most worried about?
To me, the one national show that I do every Thursday is Sirius XM Radio with Solomon Wilcots, and so I gotta kind of know all this stuff. I know I'm here in New England, and obviously we're doing this, and I watch them very closely. But the big thing going into this Rams Cardinals game was, okay, week one they didn't throw Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball at all. I think he had 3 targets, and also for the Rams, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Lost 2 starting linemen, lost Puka, and this is the theater of the NFL, right? It's any given week things can flip on a dime, and so everybody's killing the Cardinals week one. They don't know how to use their new draft pick. Kyler Murray's, he's saying it's not my job to get the ball to Marvin Harrison, which you're the quarterback, so ultimately you're the one throwing it to him. But he's true. It's the play's called and you got to go through your reads, and so here they are. They bounce back. Harrison has a big day. The Rams dealing with injuries. They lose to those guys. You mentioned the Ravens. How close were they going to the Super Bowl last year? And now they lose 2 games basically on the last play, and they're 0-2. And so, those things, sometimes you realize it's not just the ball just bounces a certain way and things happen. I mean, the guy was out, his big toe was on the end zone line last week, or else they beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. So I think it just goes to show you why. And for me, being removed, watching football, those are the games you want to watch. You don't want to watch, the Cardinals blow out the Rams. But when you're sitting there, I was doing the same thing as David. I'm sitting there watching the end of the Bengals game, and now I know why people hated New England for so long, because we always won, and now the Chiefs seems to do the same thing. But sometimes you just got to appreciate it for what it is, and these hard fought games and early in the season too. So I think the one thing is you want to play your best football, and Bill always said this, you want to be playing your best football after Thanksgiving. So right now, from now to Thanksgiving, you just want to keep yourself in the race. So that way, when you figure out who you are and you establish that identity, you're hitting your stride at the right time. So, are the Ravens going to miss the playoffs because they started 0-2? No, there's a lot of games left. And so they lost these 2 close games. You mentioned the Jaguars, obviously high expectations, paid Trevor Lawrence a lot of money. And so sometimes you got to go through these bumps and bruises to figure out who you are and the changes you need to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's week 2. I don't think you have to hit the panic button on anybody.
Yeah.
But interesting to see some of these contenders not come up with a win in the first 2 matchups. One thing I wanted to touch on before we head out of here was Tua.
Yeah.
That injury on Thursday Night Football. You hate to see it. This got to be the 3rd or maybe 4th time that this has happened in the last year. And he's meeting with a neurologist this week and deciding his future in football. But I just was curious as a quarterback and your take on the Tua situation.
Yeah, it's sad to see. It's scary to see. Something I lived through in 2015. I had 2 concussions in a matter of about 6 weeks while playing for Houston, and you really start to question everything. And I think Mike McDaniel has handled it so great. And you watch him talk, and you genuinely see he cares about Tua, and he kind of says, any of us sitting here talking about it is doing to a disservice. And this is more about football. This is about life. And for Mike to handle it the way he's handled it has been great. And I think ultimately it comes down to whatever Tua wants to do. It's his life. He deserves that chance to make that decision in any timeline that he deems fit. And I think knowing Mike McDaniel a little bit, it just goes to show you why guys love him so much that play for him, because he gets it. He understands, football is a small slice of our life, and that's the reality. And it's hitting me now. As David said, we're the old guys. I was the old guy, and now I go out in regular life, and I'm like, man, I'm still pretty young. And so, Tua has a long life to live, and is a father, a husband, and those things will come before football. And if he decides to play, great. That's his decision, and no one should criticize him for that. And if he decides not to, that's his decision, and no one should criticize him for that either. Because I've been in, not to that extreme, but you have 2 concussions in a matter of about 6 weeks, and that was the year the movie came out. And I think the biggest thing is you find the people who are going to be honest with you, who are going to be. I remember going to see a specialist in Pittsburgh, and he really calmed, my fears, and he calmed my wife's fears. And he said, look, I've studied this. He's the one who came up with this impact test that we all take before the year to kind of have this baseline. And he really, helped me get through that. And so I think, searching out those people who are going to be open and honest with you and know that they have their best interest. We talked about Dr. Price. You find people like that, it's not about the money. It's not about the fame. It's about your health and the best choices for that in the long term. So always scary to see that. I mean, especially with the success he had last year, coming back, being totally healthy. And, so I think Mike McDaniel, he's got a great coach who's, kind of leading that way for him and being an advocate for Tua. And so I think, this is his decision because it's his life. And so I think whatever he decides is great.
Yeah, wishing Tua a speedy recovery. And I actually got one more quick snap for you, and on a more lighthearted note here. I wanted to cover it with DA and get his take, but I don't know if you saw the Packers game. The Packers center Josh Myers puked on the football, hikes it to Malik Willis. Malik Willis, he kind of scrambles, rushes for a few yards, and it was a third down situation. And I think Matt LaFleur was all upset after the game or after the play.
Yeah.
And he asked Willis, why didn't you throw the ball? And Willis was like, well, Josh threw up on the football. And in the press conference, there was a funny moment that LaFleur said he'd never seen. But has anyone ever puked on a football that was then hiked to you?
No, we should have asked DA because we've hit on his puking problems, early in earlier episodes. And thank God he gets it out of the way before the game. It's never happened to me, but we've seen clips, I think a few in college, of guys just puking on the ball. And trust me, this is the quick snap. We talk about quarterback center exchange. I mean, that's hard when there's a little bit of sweat on the ball just to get the ball and if it's in the wrong spot. So I can only imagine, getting a snap and having puke on it to drop back and pass and be like, oh man, I just got to protect this ball because it's soaking wet and it's vomit. And so that was I saw that too from Matt. He's like, why didn't you throw the ball? He's like, well, he just puked all over it right before. And it was like literally seconds before the ball was being snapped. So good job by Malik Willis understanding the situation there and protecting the football.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Brian. That wraps up episode 4 of the Quick Snap podcast. Pats Nation, thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends, like, comment, subscribe on the podcast. But yeah, keep doing this and go Pats. Hopefully we get a win in week 3 here against the Jets.
Quick turnaround. We won't have to wait long. That's for sure.
Yep. We'll be recording on Friday after the game. So stay tuned for that episode as well.
Thanks, Danny.
See ya.